Welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU.
Hello, we are back for another episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career and Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today we are joined by KU alum Stephanie Campbell. She is the CEO of the Beacon News. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I know you've been in that role for, 3 years, and the Beacon has existed for 5. Are you still growing, kind of find that rhythm to the role?
Oh, absolutely. I think I just passed the milestone where I have been at the helm of the Beacon more than 50% of its lifetime.
Nice.
So it's very much become mine and my baby that I care about. And I'm thrilled to lead it. It's an honor of a lifetime.
And I know you've had, shortly after I think you graduated from KU, you started working for nonprofits. What has it been about the nonprofit environment that's really kind of pulled you in?
Yeah, I've always been one who wanted my career to have purpose and meaning. I think when I was in my undergrad here at KU, 2003 to 2007, the social impact sector is something we were all talking about, but not necessarily in the same way that maybe Gen Z is putting, pressure on all of us to be better for the world. But I always knew that my career would have a triple bottom line. I didn't necessarily know it would only be in service to the nonprofit sector, but I've always been working in more business-oriented roles within nonprofit organizations.
And was this a role you actively pursued, or were you recruited, or how did you take this current position as CEO?
Sure. Both.
Both, okay.
Both, and let this be a lesson to anyone applying out there or throwing their hat in the ring for an opportunity. I applied for this role a year before I got it and didn't get it, and made it all the way to the end of the process, and someone else got the role. And then a year later, the board chair, a man named David Oliver, who's a philanthropic pillar of the Kansas City community and nationally as well. We just lost David Oliver this year to cancer, and it was a devastating loss for our community. But David reached out to me and said, "Listen, we love you for this job." I said, "Well, what's different than it was a year ago?" He said, "A lot has changed. We really need a strong, innovative leader like you that understands journalism, but maybe doesn't come directly from a newsroom and has an outside lens to bring to this. Would you consider this role?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll consider it." And he said, "Great, turn in your materials by 5." And it was about 4:15. So not a ton of lead time, but the rest is history.
And how big is your team at the Beacon?
Yeah, our full-time staff is about 14.
Okay.
The P&L I manage, or the budget I manage, is about $2.2 million.
Okay.
And we have about 10 folks around that are really regular freelancers or contractors for us that we definitely consider an extension of the team.
And I know you really do focus on kind of the accountability-driven journalism. It's like with education, healthcare, housing. You cover a lot.
Yeah. So the Beacon is part of a really exciting, growing national movement to build back what's been lost in public service journalism. Journalism that really is the capital J journalism protecting the integrity of our public health and rebuilding that fourth estate and that common ground where we have shared language. The Beacon doesn't operate in any opinion pieces. Everything we do is, capital J journalism piece with traditional. We adhere to a really strict standard of ethics, because I think in the last 3 years and more, we've really seen that our audiences need to know who they can trust and why. And so we've made a huge effort to earn their trust. And one way we do that is by keeping our opinions out of it and sticking to these standards. We have our newsroom. The core of our newsroom is based in Kansas City, Missouri, in the urban core. We serve Jackson County and Wyandotte County and do local government, health, education, workforce, and economic impact. And then we, because there is increasing power going to the states, whichever side of the political aisle you're on, our states are gaining power, and our federal government is releasing more power to the individual states to make decisions. So we've got an eye on what's happening in the state houses of the legislature. So we have reporter in Topeka, reporter in Jeff City, and then another area that we're very concerned about, where is the current business model serving all communities. We worry about our folks in rural communities and their access to trustworthy information and news about them that they can see themselves in and identify with. So we have a roaming rural reporter in Missouri that's focusing on public health, and we're hoping to bring a mirror to that position in Kansas as well.
And is your team pretty much remote? Do they work, or do you have an actual newsroom? Or
yeah, we have a co-working space we have access to, and we get the team together. I poll the team frequently about what are the number one things they need to be able to be successful in their job, and they're always looking for technology, access to software platforms, research opportunities, conferences, ways to get together in person, subsidies for their cell phones and things like that. But brick and mortar right now isn't super high on the list, but we have access to physical space, and we get together.
And what is your style as a CEO? Are you hands off, or you let the team kind of take ownership of their work, or is it a combination of overseeing the staff and having them communicate what they want to do?
Sure. Let's see. What is my style as a CEO? I don't think I could be a micromanager, Steve, if I wanted to be. In our newsroom, we do not have time or capacity for that. So, and I have a really, really strong counterpart that has 4 decades of news experience in the editor-in-chief role. So I think the most successful relationship I have is a deep, deep respect for what he brings to the table, and then he has a deep, deep respect for what I bring to the table, more with the business sense and the dollars and cents side of how we fund the work, and more of the startup hustle mentality of being a little bit ahead and figuring out how we resource everything that we want to do and pitch people on that and get them on our team. But in terms of my style, my job is to build the team with the expertise we need, and then get out of their way and let them lead and drive. We come up with, as a team, we have an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet workbook that's through like column MM, of different KPIs that we track. So that's bringing that business sense to the newsroom. And so we're looking across a whole host of different metrics. So really our team is managed by the changes we'd like to see on that dashboard, and that's really what holds us accountable. And so when we see a number or a metric not moving the way that we'd like it to move, we discuss that as a team and how we can support the individual who's ultimately responsible for that component of the work, how we can either say that's not necessarily as important as we want it to be, let's deprioritize that, or do we need to get more intense and intentional about shifting resources to that lane?
Now, you personally, are you involved in the fundraising, or is that another team that has to generate that revenue? Or
all nonprofit leaders are involved in the fundraising, and if they're not, they shouldn't be in the job. I definitely chief evangelist and fundraiser for the work. I think when they identified me for this position, they loved that I had a journalism school degree. I understand it. I understand how this work works, how it should work, and enough to protect the wall, the editorial integrity wall between the newsroom and the fundraising. So I will help set the boundaries of the beats and help shape the beat. But beyond that, other than assisting with sources, I have a deep network that I'm connected to and always wanting to help. We really keep that line clean. But yes, I am doing most of the fundraising. My biggest success was securing a $1.8 million grant for the Beacon just last year, over 3 years, through the Kauffman Foundation.
Okay.
So we've launched a program called the Documenters Program, which I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's out of a nonprofit in Chicago called City Bureau.
Okay.
And it's a program where you identify and train everyday people to record and document what happens at public meetings. And so we're building a people-powered public record of what happens in those public meetings. And then our journalism team is producing translational journalism out of those notes. And then we also provide that public record to other newsrooms so that they can also lift stories for their dedicated audiences out of those notes. So it's a way that we are building back capacity that's been lost in a really creative way that I'm so excited about.
So was that a tough sell to Kauffman, or were they on board right away, or did it take some?
It was a very tough sell. It's a very tough sell. We're part of this growing movement saying journalism is as critical of civic infrastructure as our libraries and, something like the Smithsonian is. It's absolutely the foundation upon which our democracy and governments function. It's critical for people to be involved, and too many decisions are happening behind closed doors, whether it's out of malice or intent or just plain old we didn't have time, and communicating across a fragmented landscape and reaching people is harder than ever. It's just harder work to do in 2026 than it was when I graduated in 2007, and it should just continue to be a priority and focus for all of us.
And you mentioned graduating in 2007. When you were a college student, what was Stephanie's dream job, or did you have a plan in place?
Yeah. This is so embarrassing. So I was obsessed with Sex and the City at the time, and I was certain I was going to be like a hotshot in PR, a la Samantha Jones. I didn't have other Samantha Jones desires, but I had my first PR internship, and I think that's just the best advice is have as many internships as you can have the luxury of having, because that gives you the opportunity to try on all of these different roles. And I really learned through that PR wasn't necessarily for me, and just had the opportunity to try a couple different things. Ended up through an internship at the American Red Cross in strategic communication work from there, and just really fell in love with what a big part I was able to play in an organization that needed people like me and brains like me so badly.
Right.
And that really led me into my 17-year career serving nonprofits that need people who are just as smart and capable as the best of the best that are in the private sector, but are dedicating themselves to those organizations that are really serving.
And I think I saw also on your LinkedIn profile, we were at KU. You were also a member of an organization dear to my heart, KU PRSSA. I'm the advisor of PRSSA, and I think I saw the university choir, so you must like to sing.
Yes, oh my gosh, that was like some of my happiest times here. I was in choir and was able to tour Europe with KU, so we went to Salzburg, Vienna, Venice, and Prague, and I met some dear friends. Actually, a dear friend I met there is now the CEO and president of Starlight Theater. So the two of us have, grown up together, and we tease each other like, we have real jobs. How did this happen? And then I also took advantage of the Paderno Chimba program and lived in Venice.
Nice.
And knocked out a not insignificant portion of my journalism credits in Italy.
Did? Wow.
So my grandma joked that I majored in, I got my sommelier degree there, but no, it was a really, really wonderful experience, and I will make sure my kids study abroad as well, because it was life-changing.
Yeah, my oldest daughter, she went to another Kansas school, but yeah, she studied abroad, I think the summer before her junior year, and she travels as part of her job. She's been to 13 countries, and she loves it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of study abroad. When you were, are you from a KU family? Because you're from Sioux City, Iowa. I mean, how did you get to KU?
That's we had family friends here. It's a 4.5 hour drive from my hometown. I didn't want to go to the state school. I actually was born in California and grew up there. And then I went to high school in Sioux City, Iowa. And I kind of joke if San Francisco and Sioux City had a baby, it'd be Kansas City.
Okay.
And so this is just a really great happy medium for me. I thought I wanted to go to a school where the city really revolved around the university, and it just felt like a quintessential American collegiate experience here, and it absolutely was.
Yeah, well said. And I know you're a CEO, and I know you have a family. How do you manage all that? Because I know there's a lot of, as a career advisor, it's something we always kind of focus on. I mean, how the priorities kind of change throughout lives. I mean, do you have everything? Do you have a calendar on your fridge? I mean, how do you keep track of everything? Or do you?
Sometimes unsuccessful, we are sometimes less successful than we'd like to be. My husband and I met on 12th in Tennessee 2 weeks after I turned 19. He was a radio DJ at KJHK, and one of my best friends I was walking down the street with was also a radio DJ in KJHK, so they started talking, and then he and I have been together ever since, so about 18 years now. And how do we balance everything? He went corporate, for-profit, mega companies, and I went startup, scrappy. I really like to fly pretty close to the sun, so I have a very high risk tolerance, and I'm always just ready to break plates and experiment and try, and he's made that life possible for me. He also grew up here. He's a Johnson County kid, Shawnee Mission Schools, and then ended up at KU. And so his parents are an amazing support system for us and are really, really involved. Kind of thick as thieves Italian family, big Sunday pasta dinners kind of vibe. So that's what makes it possible. We have occasionally flipped stereotypical gender roles in our family, where I have late nights or I travel, but I also work from home. So I'm the one. I have 3 kids. My son's a freshman, and then I have identical twin girls that are 5th graders, and they walk in the door at 3:00, and I can't spend a ton of time with them, but I'm always there. Not today, I guess. But I'm there. I say hello, and they're greeted by me, and but they're on my husband's healthcare package, for example. So
nice. Yeah, I totally get how that works with the roles and balancing things out. So we're a couple months away from graduation. I know you talked about the importance of internships. What other advice would you want to share with the class of 26 that might want to do what you want to do professionally or work for nonprofit newsrooms?
Sure. I think the world of jobs that are open to potential students are so big. Everybody is trying to figure out how to get critical information out to and build trust with the stakeholders and audiences they're trying to cultivate relationships with. And journalism students are uniquely suited to that type of work. I don't want there to be this idea that these traditional journalism jobs don't exist anymore. They absolutely do. It just might not necessarily be only at the major daily paper or only at one of the top 3 TV newsrooms like it was in the past when I was looking at the roles. And you might look at, I was on the strategic communication side, so you might go, oh, okay, I need to look at the mega agencies. Now you really need to get more specific about the type of the organization that you want to work for. Do you want to be in-house at a bigger company that's trying to figure out their own communication strategy? And public relations might not look like writing press releases. It looks like figuring out how to speak to those audiences and build them up directly. Or the job opportunity might be building up a little career for yourself as an independent contractor eventually,
Right.
and piecemealing together all of these different types of opportunities. But one thing we talked about before we started the show was that I don't think anyone has the luxury of saying, this is the only skill I have and I've developed, and these other ones aren't me. Our journalists are, even though that 99 out of 100% of their time is put towards the researching and writing and editing, they are frequently asked to appear on radio programs, on TV programs, especially since radio and TV and even our traditional major dailies don't have the capacity to cover what we are carving out the capacity to cover. So those like mid-depth, day two, a little bit deeper stories that provide that critical context and nuance, that expertise, they don't necessarily have capacity to have that depth of expertise at TV. So they're asking our reporters to show up and appear and speak to that, and all of a sudden my they're worried about makeup and how they're presenting, and it's just a whole other skill that they have to flex. And we've got a couple folks on our team that are just really thriving in that, and so we're thinking, how do we sharpen that up more? How do we position more Beacon journalists to have that flexibility so that they can do that? And so the more that you can hone all these different types of skills, the better.
Now, is it kind of learn as you go, or do you bring in like some professional development opportunities, or is it kind of a sink or swim mentality? Because I worked at places where it's like, just learn how to do it.
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. I think a lot of our journalists end up bringing the opportunities that they're hoping to learn from to me. They're really the experts in investigative, so they're the ones, NICAR is next month, I'm desperate to go, can I go? Or I have a development professional who brought a big, specific to journalism philanthropy conference that she wants to attend to me. And then we're also talking more with, I think, what's changed majorly in 20 years is that these news organizations that operate similarly with similar ethics and codes of ethics are leaning into each other strategically a lot more. We're collaborating a lot more, sharing editorial calendars in ways we wouldn't have shared them together before. So it's really exciting to see.
Nope, that's awesome to share. Okay, I always like to close with kind of a fun Fast Five. I think I saw the Beacon, you're advertising for an editor-in-chief. Is that right?
We are. The biggest position next to mine is available. If you want to be the Beacon's next editor-in-chief, it pays $125,000 a year, and It's a great gig.
So the question is, I assume you're going to be part of that interview. What's the first question you're going to ask those candidates? Do you have a question ready to go? Or what do you, I guess, if that's not fair,
question.
what are you hoping to gain, or what do you want out of that editor?
So we're seeing a lot of applicants that have really, really senior journalism experience, but maybe haven't managed or edited. And we're really looking for someone who can work with journalists who have everything from 25 years of experience to this is literally their first day on the job. So the best candidate for that role will walk in with an appetite to work with a broad band of journalistic talent.
Awesome. Well, check it out, KU grads, because I think that's on our J School job board.
Yeah, and more to come. We're opening up a couple jobs here soon.
So what is a news story, past or present, that has had your full attention that you just couldn't get enough of the content? Was there that one news story that just really consumed you, either local, national?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I should have come with a better example. Recently, we had a tip into the newsline from a mother whose student is dyslexic, and she wasn't seeing what she needed to see for her student. And it wasn't a moment where our story reached a huge amount of people like some of them have. But in this case, we were able to work with a specific a really specific school that serves that community. And as a result of our reporting, a lot of new specific resources were created for that community. Nice. And it was just one of those moments where we knew it wasn't one that would have been a massive success in terms of like traditional media standards, but it underscored the why of why we approach the work the way we do. And we were serving a really specific community, and they came to us and just said, these changes wouldn't have happened without you. Thank you so much. And it really meant everything to hear from these moms. Yeah, that's always a rewarding thing about that community journalism. I think I read somewhere where you're a karaoke enthusiast. So what is Stephanie's go-to song to perform?
I mean, it probably, Since You've Been Gone, Kelly Clarkson, or Mr. Jones, Counting Crows, which is really random. But, you know, you have to, when you do high stress work, you have to find your outlets. And exercise, embarrassing myself, I take a hip hop workout class now that's I'm really terrible at, but you just have to find these moments to laugh, because when you're in the thick of this work, it's so heavy, it's so serious, you can't get out of it day to day. And so silly things like going to karaoke and being fine, being really bad at it, it can really help with the skills needed for the job.
Well, I'm sure your university choir experience has helped with your karaoke performance, I would hope.
I would not claim or name drop my choir directors in that venue to spare them that.
And I think I also saw one of your hobbies, tennis, play tennis?
I do. I play tennis like 4 times a week.
So who's your favorite player, past or present? Is there one tennis player you've always kind of followed?
Well, going way back, like I was really into Steffi Graf and really tried to get everyone to call me Steffi in middle school and tried to make that happen. But just seeing women carve their path through the sport is really exciting, and seeing, you know, as much attention on the women in the sport lately has been really cool.
And last question, spring break is next week. I don't know if you get a spring break or not, but if you were still at KU, where's Stephanie Campbell going for spring break?
Where's Stephanie Campbell going for spring break? In college, Stephanie Putty then, went to Mexico for spring break a couple times. Our family's getting out, and we're going to the Caribbean, and I'm just really, really looking forward to spending some much needed time with the 3 kiddos and my husband, and just giving them 100% dedicated attention that they definitely don't get in this this time in this job.
So it sounds like you like the beach for vacation, or not necessarily? Or this time you do?
Yes, the beach, a book. If I can get some tennis in, great. I love activities. I can't rest for very long. That's not my thing.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, I know you have a busy schedule. I appreciate you taking the time to visit about your career and the work you're doing at the Beacon. But yeah, if you have a chance, check it out. Any of those editor-in-chiefs want to apply, check out that application.
Yeah, I would love to see more KU grads come through the Beacon's doors. I think we're an amazing place to work, and rock chalk.
All right. Well, cheers. Thanks, Stephanie.
Cheers to careers.